Okay, today let's talk about this paper. It's about automatically check the AST files when you run the proc compare. So, usually when you do the validation or QC any data sets or table listing figures, uh, after you run your SAS Pro compare, you usually have the .ast files, which shows the detailed information for your validation or QC report. So this paper has a macro that can automatically check um, the issues for each LST files, so that you can save your time, even especially when you have lots of outputs to check. So this macro will check the items below here. So it will make sure the rows or numbers of variables and observations should be the same for your production and QC, and should no value level difference, and should no duplicate observations, and this message should be in the AST files. Okay, so the parameters of this macro is quite straightforward, and the logic of this macro is like here. So they read your LST files on the one folder, and will read through that files and get any message that identified in the previous page, and it will output the report. The report will be like this. So if no issue, it will show no issue. If there's any issue, it will show the information for that issues. So when you batch run this macro, it will automatically give you this list, very convenient. Sometimes if you have hundreds of outputs, if you just batch run this macro, you will get this reports, so that you can convenient look through if any issue or not. So very handy macro for your projects. There's a note here so that set macro will not give proper results. So if some options like here are being used, there may be a problem. So make sure those options are not being used. Okay. So let's go to the macro a little bit. So here, so this is the macro. Just basically two parameters. What's the LST files are, which folder. You just into the folder name here, and the out path is the output of your where you want the output located. The output is a Excel file. Okay. So here, just use a list function, the pipe, to read through each of the LST files on the folder, each folder. So this is code is for Windows. If your system is Linux or Unix, you can use the below code, this one. So this is ls, there's a space here, and -1 space, the path, and then you have this one, and the space grep.lst. So after read their files, it will have a list of files for all the folders. You mention in the folders how many files, so they will get something like here, how many files, and then they will have there's some here. So if there's no files, the macro will not run. So if there are files, they will do loop to scan each of the LST files. Okay, so if a system is Unix or Linux, it just use this slash. Okay, so this macro receive the information. You just check this kind of text in your LST files. If any kind of these ones, it will give you a lot for output. You can add more index if you want. You can check more items. Okay, and then just post process the dataset. Sometimes no issue or some issue, and then it will create an Excel file that will be stored in your out path folder in the macro parameter. So again, for your Linux or Unix, you just use that slash. Okay, so that's it. So this macro is really handy and straightforward. It will be very useful for your project management when you do the deliverable or submission. You have datasets refresh, outputs refresh. You will need to batch check. We'll make sure the validation of PC is complete. This macro is so useful. Okay, so please subscribe to my channel.